I'm not starting. We're going to, spend some time. We'll start on time. I just wanted to make sure that everything was working and everything was functioning. Because we're living in a really weird world right now. And I have a very good friend of mine who reminds me of of a bigger picture, reminds me of things. Aha, here I am, good. Reminds me of what a monumental time we're living in right now. I mean, really, we have to stop and think about it. What's been happening? We've, as a culture, as a country, we've been splitting apart to the point where our own government attacked our own government. I mean, that's a big deal. What's going on in Washington and what's going on with politics and what's going on with the pandemic in our own country is a monumental time. It's where it shows and represents how much healing we need to do in our country, if not the world. A lot of healing needs to happen for us to have gotten to this place that we've gotten to. One where it's our neighbors across the street who are involved, or it's our cousins, or it's our parents. This is a historic time right now, like right this moment. We're in the middle of it. And even though we don't need to do anything about it, even though, there's no need to become somebody else specifically because of that, we're in a place and a time that we at least need to pause for a second and realize how big this is. Because this isn't an isolated incident that happened this week. What this is this shows that we're struggling as our communities. We're struggling on our planet. We're struggling in our home. It's right there when our own government directs people who have been suffering, who are angry, who are methodical towards our own government. This is, a challenge that we have to look at because it shows how deep the divide is in our country and with our neighbors and in our families. And you don't have to do anything different or special. You don't have to become somebody different. And when you're choosing to do this to make your health and well-being a priority, when you do that, it's a side, it's moving in the right direction of harmony. It's contributing to something greater than us. And when we add more women to this influence on our planet is magnified. Change is going to be happening. The polar change is going to be happening. It really, really is. And we are in the middle of it right now. And because we're in the middle of it, we have to realize we have to adjust and focus on being healthy and balanced and happy so we can really help each other grow and be okay. Hi, Tim. You are already live streaming, just so you know. There you are.
You're sideways.
You're sideways.
Oh boy.
Here you go. I love it. Yes, you're already streaming, just so you know. You look great.
Thank you.
So here's my question for you. I just had a long conversation with someone who, like you, is very sensitive to the energies going on around the planet right now and in our country and everything And I know how much you're aware and affected by all of this stuff. How are you doing? I mean, how are you managing or handling this high anxiety that our country and the world is in right now?
Terribly. I mean, I think I have a kind of existential crisis going on inside of me that just mirrors what's going on in our country. And it's, you know, it's simultaneously terrifying, and there's this part of me that's hopeful, that is kind of intuitively feeling like, okay, this is a, you know, it's a painful birth of a new consciousness. You know, it's hard to stick with that thought when things are so messed up and people are breaking into into Congress and being white supremacists, and you know, it feels so much bigger and dangerous, I think, than it is. I think that it's the dying gasp of a way of thinking, and those people that are losing their grip on control are either going to be stubborn and continue to be stubborn and tear things down and spew hate, and that'll be the end of us. Really, they won't let the people who see the future, the possibility of like peaceful, loving kindness being the way that people are treated, in the way that we deal with society and everything. If those people don't get to practice their craft of being healers, then we're all doomed, you know, and that's a heavy weight to carry around every day, you know, because when you look at the state of the environment alone, it's going to be bad no matter what, but it's either going to be bad and we're all dead, or it's going to be bad and then we're going to learn from our mistakes and regrow.
Ooh, your video disappeared. Oh, there you go.
I just got a phone call. I declined.
Oh, okay. That happens to me.
So, gosh, that's a bright.
Well, here's how I'm going to redirect you.
Yes.
Because I have a very good friend, and my very good friend has a similar brain that you have, and they are able to see multiple sides of things. You know, they're able to see the bad side and the good side, and the bad side and the good side, and the bad side and the good side. So I'm going to ask you the question, what is the upside of all of this?
The upside, I think is there's a lot of upsides. I think that the general feeling on the upside that I've had about coronavirus is that it's made everybody see in a very concrete way that we are all interconnected, literally. And you know, that leads, I think, some people to an understanding that we are all spiritually interconnected, and we're all, you know, politically interconnected, and in so many ways we are one being. And I think that changes people's perspective, and that changes the way people think. And, you know, part of that could be the reason that the election went the way it did. You know, part of it could be still to come. But, you know, I think that change in an understanding of who we are and what we are is huge. And, you know, I think that as far as what's going on in the world, I know from experience that you have to, and from hearing other people's experiences, that sometimes you have, or, you know, you have to hit a point in your life where they call it rock bottom, you know, and everything seems awful, but that's the thing that leads to healing and recovery. And I think that's where we're at. I think that's where, you know, what we've been going through. And a lot of people are rethinking the way that they live and the way that they think, and things are changing. So what could be better than that? That's what we need.
Well, how are you talking to your kids about all of this?
Well, the 3-year-old, it's, you know, she just wants to talk about Frozen. So there's a little bit of conversation there, but really not much. And my other daughter is 18. And, you know, we have deep philosophical discussions about who we are and what all this means, and compare it to Game of Thrones and Star Wars and things like that. And it's easy to talk to her. It's like talking to a friend, you know, now that she's 18 and has her head screwed on pretty well. It's great. But, you know, my wife and I are closer than ever, I think, because of all this, or not, you know, or, despite all this, you know, it's made us have conversations about parenting, because we are the primary caregivers now, of our daughter. We always have been, but it's like now it's just us, and that's pretty intense. And we've had to learn a lot, and to listen to each other a lot. And the things that I've learned from her, and you know, have made me a better parent in massive ways over the last 8-10 months. So, yeah.
Now, I would imagine that your kids inherited some of your creative thinking style.
Yeah.
How do you handle that? Because I'm sure you weren't raised in the most nourishing of environments for how you work, and I'm sure you not only had a bunch of opinions, but have experimented a lot for, like, how can I raise my kids in a way that respects their gifts?
Yeah. You know, I think the universe has eased me into parenting. My 18-year-old daughter, has always been kind of self-starter. She will just sit down and figure things out for herself. And you know, she's literally a genius, and loves to draw, loves to paint. But you know, she chose a long time ago that she wasn't going to try and educate herself as an artist, or she wasn't going to try and get any education as an artist. She was just going to let it be a part of her life. And so all of her notes at school were covered in drawings. And she was very quickly better at drawing than most of the artists that I know. And then, you know, gradually got into acting, got into music and things like that, but really ended up, she's going to Berkeley for physics and music. And
what a wonderful combination. Oh my God, you created geniuses.
Yeah.
You must be so proud.
I am so proud. She's incredible. And you know, it's funny that we're talking right now about this, because she's coming over today. For her mom is dropping her off, and she's going to spend the night with us, and then she's going to Berkeley to go move in with some roommates, and we won't see her for another 5 months. And that's pretty overwhelming. That's been hitting me really hard, that she's not going to be popping her head in the studio and asking where the toilet paper is, you know.
Yeah. Well, is she, I mean, were you pretty close to her because she was a lot like you, or because she was different from you, or?
She's like me in some ways, but she's different in ways that I think are really good. She has always had the capacity to function within systems really well, something which I did not have. And so when I say that the universe eased me into parenting, I have a 3-year-old that does not want to abide by the rules, does not want to figure things out for herself. She wants to look at me and ask me how it's done. And when I tell her how it's done, she'll just scream at me or something. She's really challenging. And she's more like me, I think, in ways that are difficult for me. And so, I'm looking at this 3-year-old kid and just going, oh my God, it's so hard to deal with these things because they're all the things that I don't like about myself. There's so many of those things that I'm like, oh, I have to learn to love myself now so that I can parent this child right. And, thank God that's what I've been focusing my energy on for years, trying to come to terms with the inner turmoil that I've always seen as, my fault. Everything's my fault. I'm like, a kind of faulty person in so many ways. And that's kind of the message that I got when I was younger, because I did not fit in to any system really, except for playing. And so it's taken me years to figure out how to function and to make a living and to, tap into the energy and the intelligence that I have in a way that's practical. And it's phenomenal, the things that I've managed to do with that chaotic energy. But there's still been this deep well inside of me that just says, yeah, but you're a big problem. You are not the way that people should be. And so now I'm looking at this kid and I'm having to figure out how to say, you're perfect just the way you are, when I maybe don't feel that about myself.
So what are some of the bigger things that you had to, let go of? Some of the bigger ideas about yourself that you believed so strongly were wrong with you. And you were like, no, wow, this is actually kind of perfect. What are some of the judgments you had to let go of?
It's tough to say, because I'm revisiting a lot of those things right now in ways that are very difficult. Being really sensitive, is it's not fun. It's it's really hard, but that's why I can paint. That's why I can sit and just go like this and have art come out. And it's tapped into a really deep part of me that it's my life. It really is. It's like a meditation. Every time I sit down to make art, I feel peaceful inside. And it was, really hard to get to that from lying on the ground, kicking and screaming, and not knowing how to manage the chaotic energy and love and hate going on inside of me when I was 7 years old. And we were at the market and I wanted a toy and my mom wouldn't buy it for me. And my 2 brothers were looking at me like I'm crazy. And all I could do was lie on the ground and scream. Turning that into something practical, turning that into an understanding of myself as a loving being, and finding the ability to channel that energy into beautiful artwork. That has been, that's the challenge of my life. That's the whole thing right there,
So from a physical level, which I do a lot of my work from is how does the brain work? How does the body work? How does the nervous system work? What does it have to do with us? So when you were having the meltdowns, there's always a scale of sympathetic and parasympathetic. It's not one or the other. It's like, oh, we've got 60% of our parasympathetic is on board today and 40% of our, sympathetic. And there's this battle, not battle between them, but it's a constant shifting and adjusting. And when the sympathetic takes hold, then you totally lose your grip, because you go totally into fight or flight. Your deepest traumas are triggered. You're so dysregulated. Your heart's dysregulated. Your brain's dysregulated. And when you can do enough things to keep your parasympathetic, the calm, centered, I got this. If you can do enough things to keep that one at like 55% at least, you can still have that creative tension, but you now have control over whether the creative tension destroys your life or enriches your life. So everything that you do that takes back your control of your centered, level, aligned person that you are will let you still create at the genius level that you do, because we're all geniuses waiting to be polished. It'll still let you create at that high level, but without letting that tension and drama control you. Did that make any sense? Am I just talking out of my butt? It does
make sense. I mean, I think that, the tools that I have a lot of tools to do that. And, there's even things that, I didn't really understand why I started hiking. I just thought I liked hiking, but it became clear after a while that it was a way of centering myself and exiting from, being surrounded by people and being in nature. And it was regulating my health. And, there were so many reasons why I was inspired to go hike. And it became a practice of 2 or 3 times a week going on this really difficult hike that got me focused very well on what's important in my life. And I still do that hike, and it's been like 8 or 9 years of at least once a week. Some cases I took a little time off, but there were times when I was going once a day. And it's a 5-mile round trip. If I drive up there, it's a 3-mile round trip. But either way, it's a brutal, steep hike that, I need that kind of impression on me. I need to take a real true break from sitting and staring at a computer or painting or whatever. I just need to get out. And I have a lot of things like that. I have meditation, and I have, doing the dishes and,
Right, exactly. Laundry and, things which just they're soothing for, the soul. I take a lot of baths. I love baths. I love showers. I live on 2.5 acres of woods. I got flocks of turkeys and peacocks and
awesome.
Yeah, I was saying this morning on my morning video that I literally had to live in the woods. And for the longest time, my career had to be, I ran a nature center and I managed natural areas, big nature preserves. And I taught kids all about nature and butterflies. And so I had to surround myself with that because it was one of the few things that helped keep me level from feeling like I was just crawling out of my skin. So I made, I think intuitively we make a lot of those choices to just save ourselves, if nothing else. And if we can teach our kids, instead of waiting until, they're in crisis and they have to figure it out themselves, teaching them these sorts of, how do you handle your emotions? What do you need? What works for you? This is how we work. And taking all judgmentalism away. Like, oh, you're having a temper tantrum in the middle of the floor. You're dysregulated. You're overstimulated. What can we do to calm your nervous system down?
Yeah. And that's so, it's so huge, because the message that you send when you offer help, when you offer practical like solutions, is everything that I needed, and so when we do that with our daughter, when she's, when she screams at me, and I just go, okay, I hear you. All right, let's talk about what's going on right now, and then I think about what I got, which was, you're crazy, and I'm not going to deal with you, and give you a look that says, ugh, and or whatever, like whatever, however many reactions there were, it was always kind of like, yeah, that's not going to work for me, and you're the problem.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you're creating real problems for me.
And you're 7. Howard, you have no culpability. Your brain is not developed. You are not rash. You are not in charge of these things. That you are missing most of the parts and pieces that you need in order to function in a level way. It's crazy to me that creative kids, that we don't recognize them as geniuses and support them. Instead, we keep trying to keep them small, and we as a society really suffer because of it.
Yeah.
There's this, I remember reading this article on how really every quality has this genius part of it. And if you can learn to manage whatever, you're wired as or born with, if you can learn how not just to manage that, but see what the gifts and the benefits are on the other side.
Yeah.
You can do what you're supposed to be doing in this world, which is, be the best version of you that you are, and contributing to the health and whole of the society.
Yeah.
That's my soapbox.
I'll get up on that soapbox with you. I agree. I mean, I think that there's things that I've seen in myself where I've said out loud, I think painting is like meditation. And I didn't really believe it. I know I was just blowing smoke, I
did that for decades. I studied shamanism for 10 years, and I never believed a word of it. I always sat there thinking it was just some like psychological thing, but I still kept going and doing sweat lodges and doing, banging the drum, thinking, okay, this is nice. I'm sure it's not really doing anything, but this is lovely. But I kept on that direction, and now I'm like, oh my God, that's how it works.
Yes, that's exactly how it works. And the things that I find now in my work are a connection with the universe. It's like there's no doubt in my mind that I'm being sent information in some way, that because I've spent so much time sitting there going like this, that this is a conduit now. It comes
you're
right
channeling
to me.
it. Yes, you're a channel.
Yeah, and it may be just as simple as personal information about what I should be doing, or where my energy should go, or what I should concentrate on. But man, it just happens like that. It's incredible. Now it's absolutely necessary that I draw every day.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at the state that we're in right now, and I'm not looking at who's to blame or what's to blame or who did what, or what I look at is we're really messed up right now. We've got a lot of people who are dealing with a lot of trauma on a lot of different levels. Now, all of our, so how many government workers are traumatized? How many, from this experience? And mental and emotional health, I mean, between the pandemic and the unresolved grief around that, and the and what's going on underlying, in our country that's been around for a long time, that divide, mental and emotional health is going to have to be the top of the list. And we as a people, as a world, are going to have to start focusing on how do we live healthy, balanced lives? Not how do we survive? And how do we then, out of our own being in balance, help other people around us be in balance as well?
Yeah. Well,
that's where we're going.
My wife has been kind of like thinking about being a therapist, for forever, and during this lockdown, she's really saved me. She's really talked me through a lot of things, and I'm convinced now that she's on the path of being a really great healer, and whatever path that is, she's getting more clear about how to get there and what to do. And she's been doing sound baths and meditations for a long time, and now she's heading a little bit more into like the coaching world and spiritual advisor kind of things. And it's just incredible to see how something so seemingly stifling and terrifying can transform somebody and give them all of that information that they clearly needed in order to really solidify their understanding of what their path in life is. I mean, parenting alone has transformed her. Seeing how all of a sudden now this thing comes along and she's just like, whoa, okay, I think I understand what I need to do now. That's incredible.
So you've watched her go through these transformational stages because you're aware of them, because you're empathic, because you have all your own issues, because you're obsessive and neurotic. I mean, you've been watching this whole thing.
She talks me off the bridge, she's able to say things to me that are so loving and comforting and empathic. And that's not me. I'm not that person. You know what I mean? So seeing her able to like just switch gears and go there, my God, it's incredible. And she has not always been that way. She's been a fiery kind of like scary lady at some times, and so it's amazing. Yeah.
People tend to, the adage is, well, people don't change. This is just the way it's going to be, forever and ever. And it's that is not how anything ever works, and as organic living beings, we are always growing, even if our growth isn't as much as our, self-destruction.
Right. Yes, for sure. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah, me too. Well, I think I'm done. How about you?
Yeah, that's perfect. I just got a text from my daughter that she's headed over. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. Tim, I have so much fun talking to you because you've been able to be comfortable as you can be with who you are, and express it in a way in the world that really contributes instead of, takes away from anybody else. And I really enjoy listening and talking to you and asking you questions and seeing what your perspective is, because it gets me out of my own little box of thinking in Rita world, which I tend to live in. And it gets me, looking through the eyes of different, different creative people who naturally see the world, upside down.
Yeah.
And, I really value and treasure these conversations. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Me too.
You bet. Well, your daughter's coming to look for you. So I'll talk to you later. Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. That was really, really, really cool. I seriously enjoyed talking to Tim. He just has a neat perspective. So we're going to be meeting at 3:00 Central Standard Time, and we're going to have Monique on. And Monique is a pediatrician in Alaska. And she's, because of her own nature, because of her own personality, she stays kind of on the edge of what the science says about the COVID virus. And she doesn't really take sides. She just shares information about what's come across her, in her world. So I rely on her a lot for the latest updates on what we should be looking for, or what her opinion is, what her thoughts are, just so I can decide for myself, what sort of things to know. So she'll be wonderful to have on. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, I look forward to seeing everybody. You're late again? No, not yet. You've been here for a while, Kitty. I haven't started the next one yet. You have a half an hour until Monique comes on. Okay. And I'll see you then. All right. Bye.